Chosen one, stop for a moment because the spirit has just changed around you. That quiet stirring you feel right now is real. It means that heaven has entered your timeline. You didn't get this message by chance. The Most High has been setting up events, putting together hidden details, and directing your attention here with a level of precision that you may not yet understand. There are times when life moves slowly and quietly, anointed one, and then there are times when God starts to act quickly. This is one of those times. What happens next in your life won't follow the same patterns that you are used to. Doors that looked like they would never open will start to move. Answers that were hidden will come to light, and places where there was once confusion will become clear. The book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible tells us that there is a time for everything under heaven. The time you spent waiting was not wasted. It was a warm-up for what is about to happen. If this message touches your heart, think about signing up so you don't miss the words that will help you in the future. Chosen one, stay with me because what I'm about to tell you could change everything you think about what's coming next. Even if you can't fully explain it yet, something in your life has already started to change. You may have noticed it in quiet times when normal conversations suddenly feel different, like some words now mean something different than they did before. Things that used to make you happy now feel empty. Things you used to do to pass the time don't make you feel good anymore. You might start to ignore noise that used to sound normal because you feel like something deeper is calling your attention. And if you've been wondering if something is wrong with you, listen up, anointed one, nothing is wrong with you. You are not confused, you are waking up. I noticed this same change in my own life at one point. I remember being in a room with a lot of other people, laughing and talking easily, but there was something quiet and far away inside me, not lonely, not sad, but aware. I had a strange feeling that the world I was used to was no longer enough for my spirit. I thought I was just tired or stressed out at first, but as time went on, I realized that something deeper was going on. God was changing how often I heard things. The things that used to make me happy were losing their hold on me because my spirit was starting to respond to a higher call. This is exactly what is happening to you right now, chosen one. Your spirit is responding to a message from God that the rest of the world can't hear. Heaven is pulling you away from things that don't matter and back toward your goal. And when that process starts, it can be hard to get used to at first. You start to see through things that used to look solid. Systems that looked stable now look weak. Voices that once sounded convincing now feel hollow. You start to see how much of the world runs on noise, distractions, and short-term pleasure. But what you're going through isn't a breakdown, it's a readjustment. The Most High is getting you ready for something that needs a higher level of awareness. Anointed one, when heaven starts to get someone ready, their appetite is often the first thing that changes. All of a sudden, you want the truth more than fun, you want peace more than you want to be liked, you want more clarity than comfort. This isn't a mistake, it's preparation. The Bible says in the book of Ecclesiastes that there is a time for everything under heaven for a reason. There are times when you should learn. Some seasons are for lasting. Some seasons are for growth that no one else can see, but there are also times when everything starts to move quickly, when doors that seemed permanently closed start to open, and when understanding comes out of nowhere after years of being confused. Chosen one, you are entering one of those times. The truth is that the world itself is going through a time of change. A lot of things that people thought were strong will turn out to be weaker than they thought. Systems that looked like they would last forever will start to show their flaws, And when those times come, people will start to look for something solid to stand on. Some people will get scared, some people will get mad, some people will harden their hearts because they don't want to face the truth, but other people will wake up, and that's where you come in, chosen one. People who stay standing when things get shaky aren't always the strongest people on the outside. They are the ones who are anchored in faith, truth, and purpose. Their foundation stays strong even when everything else starts to move because it was built on something that will last forever. You might think right now that you aren't ready for this kind of responsibility. You might have wondered how strong you are. You may have thought about your past mistakes or limitations and wondered how someone like you could possibly carry something important. But listen closely, chosen one, because this truth has changed the lives of many people before you. God does not choose people because they are already qualified. He picks people because their hearts are open. There were times in my own journey when I thought I wasn't ready for what God wanted me to do. I thought that someone else must be better, smarter, or more sure of themselves. But I saw God do something amazing over and over again. He didn't wait for me to be ready. He gave me strength as I moved forward instead. And that is exactly how divine preparation works, chosen one. You may not even realize it, but the strength you pray for often starts to grow inside you long before you notice it. Every hard time you went through made you stronger. You learned how to tell the difference between good and bad people every time someone betrayed you. Every time you were alone and quiet, you were getting better at hearing God's voice. There was no waste. Even the times when you were confused were making you ready for this moment. The Bible says that God is our shelter and strength, and that He is always there to help us when we need it. Pay close attention to the words, present help, not far away, not late, present. That means that when the pressure goes up, He does too. His grace grows to meet the weight as it gets heavier. And that's why you shouldn't be scared of what's coming next. Yes, there will be times when the world is not stable. Yes, a lot of people will have trouble understanding what's going on around them. You are not being told to panic, but to stand. There will be a clear difference between people who get lost in confusion and people who stay grounded in the truth. Some people will give up their beliefs when the pressure gets too much. Some people will lose focus and choose comfort over bravery. But some people will also rise in quiet strength. People who won't let the dark tell them what to do. People who choose honesty even when it costs them something. People who stay calm when others are scared. Chosen one. Those people are the ones God has been getting ready all along. You are one of them, whether you knew it or not. But this calling isn't about being better than others, it's about standing up for them. A lot of people who used to walk away from faith will start looking for their way back as the world wakes up. Some will come back without making a fuss, some will come back broken, some will come back feeling bad and wondering if they waited too long. And when those times come, they will need someone who knows what grace is. They will need someone who knows what it was like to be lost. They need someone who doesn't judge them, but instead shows them kindness. You are being prepared to be the chosen one. You are becoming someone who can help others find hope again, not with loud speeches or dramatic shows, but with a life that quietly shows the truth. A life that shows others that having faith isn't a sign of weakness. Believing gives you strength. Faith is what keeps things stable. When all the other ropes break, faith is what holds. And the reason this has taken so long is that what's coming next is more than just a moment. It is part of something much bigger that has been happening quietly behind the scenes for this generation. And the next part of that process is about to start. As this next stage starts to happen, you might notice that the mood around you is changing in small but clear ways. Not everything will change in a big way. Many of the most important changes will start off quietly, like the first light of dawn before the sun fully rises. At first, it is just a faint light on the horizon. A lot of people don't even notice it, but people who are awake can feel it. They know the night is coming to an end even before the sun rises. You're now entering this stage. People around you will keep living the same way they always have, not knowing that anything is different. They will keep going after the same things that take their minds off of things, believing the same lies, and putting their faith in systems that were never meant to work. But you, chosen one, will start to see through those lies more clearly than before. You will start to see patterns that other people miss. You will feel spiritual movements long before they are seen by the rest of the world. This new level of awareness is not meant to make you feel alone. It is meant to get you ready, because when times of awakening come, they usually come with a lot of stress. Truth always brings everything that was hidden to the surface, and that exposure can make a lot of people feel uneasy. Some will fight it. Some will say it's not true. Some people will try to stop the voices that remind them that things are changing, but you can't hide the truth forever. I came to this realization in a very personal way at one point on my journey. During a time in my life when I was very confused, I had been praying for clarity. I wanted answers right away. I wanted God to tell me exactly what to do next. But instead of quick answers, I got awareness. I could see things I had missed before. All of a sudden, I could see that some of my relationships were no longer helping me grow. I could see habits that had been slowly taking away my strength. At first, I didn't like being aware of that. It made me deal with truths that were easier to avoid. But later, I learned something important. Awareness is often the first gift God gives before change happens. You are getting that same gift right now, chosen one. You are starting to figure out what things you need to bring into your next season and what things you don't. Some places will start to feel heavy. Some talks won't give you energy anymore. Some of the goals you used to work toward may not be as important to you anymore. Don't worry about this change, not loss, but alignment. God is slowly moving your life around so that you will be in the right place to walk through the next doors when they open. A lot of people pray for a breakthrough without knowing that it often needs to happen first. Some doors won't open until some distractions go away. Heaven is making room around your destiny, anointed one. And at the same time, something else is quietly happening. Some people who used to walk away from the truth are now feeling an emptiness they can't ignore. Some of them spent years chasing their dreams, thinking that success would make them happy. Others sought pleasure, thinking that constant excitement would make them feel better. But the soul always knows when something is missing, whether it likes it or not. People will start to believe in God again in ways you didn't expect. Some people will ask questions they've never asked before. Some will admit to problems they used to hide because they were too proud. Some people might just watch your life from afar, trying to figure out why you have a peace that they can't explain. And in those moments, chosen one, you'll see that your journey was never just about you. Every season you went through made you stronger and more able to bring light to places that had been dark for too long. You learned how to be patient, which will help you listen without judging. You can show grace to others who are still trying to figure things out because you got mercy. The Bible paints a lovely picture of God's heart. It says that He will not break a reed that is bruised or put out a wick that is smoldering. That means that heaven doesn't throw away people who are weak or who feel like their faith is barely alive. Heaven brings them back to life, and you are also being asked to do the same. This is why it was so important that you were ready. You wouldn't be able to help others with kindness if your heart had become bitter from the problems you had. But you didn't let bitterness define you. Even when life hurt you, a part of you chose to stay open. That choice is more important than you think. Many people think that titles, recognition, or influence are what makes someone important, but in God's kingdom, the most powerful leaders are often the ones who quietly help others find hope again. They are the ones who show people that grace is still there. Their daily lives show that faith is not just a thought, but a real relationship with the one who fixes things that are broken. And as this awakening spreads, your part will become clearer. You are not supposed to control people, you are supposed to lead them. You don't have to judge their past, you just have to remind them that their future isn't over yet, because the same God who helped you through your darkest times is helping others right now. And the truth is, chosen one, some of the people who didn't understand you before will soon be the ones who look to you for help. But before that can happen, you need to make another change inside yourself. You need to understand more deeply the abundance that God is getting ready to give you, chosen one. Before the next door opens all the way, heaven often stops to fix something deep in your heart, not because God is keeping blessings from you, but because He is getting you ready to see them when they come. A lot of people pray for abundance, but their minds are still set on not having enough. They want a breakthrough, but their minds are full of years of disappointment, and when the chance finally comes, they hesitate because they aren't sure if it's really for them. This is why the changes that are happening inside you right now are so important. The abundance that God gives you is not limited by the state of the world around you. Anointed one, the economy goes up and down, systems change. Every generation sees changes and trends, but those things don't affect God's provision. Heaven's resources come from a whole different place. No earthly limitation can undo God's decision to keep someone alive. There was a time when I didn't know what was going to happen in my life. I could no longer count on some doors. My carefully laid plans fell apart all of a sudden. I thought for a second that everything was falling apart, but later I realized that God was quietly taking away the things I had relied on so that I would learn to rely on Him instead. The new doors that finally showed up didn't look anything like the ones I had lost. They were better, they were more powerful, and they came at the exact time I was ready to trust again. Chosen one. Something like this is happening in your life. You may have gone through times when it seemed like there weren't enough resources, when answers took longer than you thought they would, and when your prayers seemed to be echoing back in silence. But heaven never forgot about you. Things were getting ready behind the scenes. Wisdom was coming together, patience was getting stronger. Faith was being improved until it became something strong and unbreakable. This is why the promise in the letter to the Philippians is so comforting. It says that God will meet all of our needs through Christ, who is rich in glory. See how sure those words are? Not some needs, not needs that come up from time to time, all needs, giving that comes from a source much bigger than human systems. But that promise also has an invitation in it. To get that provision completely, you have to let go of the burdens that were never yours to bear, the fear of what will happen tomorrow, the constant pressure to control every outcome, and the quiet voice of doubt that tells you that you might be asking for too much. These burdens are very heavy on the soul, and they make it hard to see the help that is already on its way to you. Heaven is asking you to let go of those burdens. Anointed One, you were never meant to go through this alone, figuring out every step on your own. Even when you can't see it clearly, there is protection around your life. Even when the way ahead looks unclear, there is still guidance. When you give God what you can't control, something powerful happens inside you. Stress starts to go away, and peace takes its place. Confusion gives way to clarity. In places where tiredness used to be, strength quietly grows. And that change inside you is not small, it is the way to the next step in your calling. This generation's awakening is not just about changing individuals, it's about something much bigger, everyone coming back to the truth. People in different countries, communities, and families are starting to realize that the old ways of living without a purpose are no longer working. Something deeper is calling to them. You are a part of that movement, chosen one. The change that is starting in your life will have effects that you can't fully see yet, and the next step in that ripple is about to show itself. The small change that has started in your life won't stay small for long. What began as a subtle transformation within your spirit is now part of a much larger movement that heaven has been working on for years. A lot of people only see chaos in the world right now. They see things that are unstable, confusing, and divided. They are curious as to why so many systems appear to be breaking at once, but the truth is that what looks like destruction on the outside is often the start of divine reordering on the inside. God does not shake things that are built on truth. He shakes things that were never meant to hold your future. There have always been times in history when whole generations reached a turning point. Patterns that used to work stopped working. Things that used to work started to fall apart. People had to think more deeply about meaning, purpose, and truth during those times. Right now is one of those times. What once seemed permanent is showing how weak it really is. And a lot of people are realizing that the things they thought would always be there can't hold up their lives. But this moment is not meant to scare you, it is meant to make things clear. When everything fake starts to fall apart, it's easier to see what's real, truth is easier to see, faith becomes more important, and the words of people who are close to God start to have more power than they did before. This is why it was so important that you got ready. You weren't being shaped just for your own success, you were being prepared to be a steady presence in a world where many people feel lost. People naturally look for people who are calm when things get confusing. People start looking for voices that bring wisdom instead of noise when it gets louder. Chosen one, your life is becoming that kind of voice. But it's important to know that leadership in the kingdom of God is not the same as the kind of leadership that the world often praises. It doesn't depend on fame or praise. It doesn't last because of fame or popularity. The leaders that God chooses are based on their character. It is built quietly through integrity when no one is watching and by following the rules in small ways that most people don't notice. It took me a long time to learn this lesson. I used to think that big moments, dramatic events, or sudden breakthroughs would have an effect on me, but more often, it came from everyday decisions. The choice to be honest when lying would have been easier. The choice to be nice when it would have been okay to be angry. The choice to keep praying even when it seemed like the answers were taking too long. At the time, those choices didn't seem like a big deal, but they made a stronger base than I thought. Your foundation has been growing in the same way, Anointed One. Every time you chose faith over anger, your spirit grew stronger. Every time you chose truth over convenience, you became a better person. Even the quiet times when you felt like no one was paying attention were helping you become the consistent leader you needed to be. And now the world is starting to need what God has been putting inside you. People are tired of things not being stable. They are sick of promises that never come true. They want something real, something that doesn't change when culture does. They want to see a faith that really works in the middle of everyday life. That's why your job is so important right now. Your life will show that faith is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. It means being able to stay calm when others are stressed out. It takes courage to keep going even when you can't see the whole picture of the future. It is the calm confidence that comes from knowing you are not alone. You may not feel like a leader yet, but you are already a leader in many ways. The way you handle stress, the way you treat people who can't give you anything in return, and the way you stay calm when the world around you gets louder are all more important than any title. And as more and more people wake up, the need for this kind of authenticity will only grow. The next step in this movement is not to beat people or prove them wrong. It is to help people out of the dark and lead them to hope. And slogans and trends can't give this generation the kind of hope it needs. It needs to be lived. Chosen one. That's why heaven has been so careful about how your life has turned out, and the time is coming when you will understand how important that preparation really was. At some point in every spiritual awakening, the normal life you used to live starts to feel too small for the purpose that is growing inside you. It isn't being arrogant, it is not being restless, it is acknowledgement. Your spirit starts to understand that you weren't put on this earth just to go through the same cycles over and over again, chasing short-term pleasures while something eternal waits inside you. Many people live on the surface of life for years. They keep busy, they have fun, they keep getting distracted, but deep down, something in their soul is still not at peace. They might not be able to put it into words, but they feel it. It whispers to them when they're alone, asking them questions they try to ignore, like what their life means, what its purpose is, and whether it's meant for more than just staying alive. That whisper is the voice of awakening. Anointed one. People have been taught for a long time to replace purpose with distraction. Entertainment takes up the time that used to be spent thinking. There is no longer any quiet where people could have heard God speak to their hearts. People measure success by what they do and how well they are known, not by how good their character is. But that pattern is starting to change. People are starting to understand that being busy all the time doesn't bring peace. Accomplishments do not inherently forge identity. Being popular doesn't answer the deeper questions of the soul. And as more and more people realize this, they will start looking for something real and trustworthy. That search is what makes change possible. Chosen one. This is why the feeling inside you has grown stronger lately, because your spirit has been awakened to something bigger. The life you used to accept is no longer enough. God didn't make you to go through life numb and give up your beliefs just to fit in with places that don't fit your calling. You were made to live clearly, and clarity makes a big difference. When you get clear, you stop going after things that can't make you happy. You stop lowering your voice to avoid having to talk about things that make you uncomfortable. You stop judging how valuable you are by how much people who don't know what you're trying to do like you. Instead, you start to move with quiet confidence, knowing that something much bigger than what people think right now is in charge of your life. In the kingdom of God, this is what real greatness looks like. People often think of greatness as being famous or having power, but heaven sees it as being faithful, the person who keeps living with honesty year after year. The person who helps others even when no one is looking. The person who chooses love over hate, giving over taking, and honesty over ease. I've seen this kind of greatness in regular people many times, not famous people or public figures, just regular people who quietly live their faith every day. They are wise when it comes to raising families. They help their neighbors who are having a hard time. When hope seems far away, they give others hope, and those small acts of faithfulness can change whole communities. Anointed One, that kind of effect is happening in your life right now. At first, it might not seem like a big deal. You might not even be aware of how your presence affects other people, but when someone sees a life that is peaceful in the midst of uncertainty, it makes them curious. People respect someone who has integrity in a world where compromise is common. When someone is kind to someone else in a place where they are expected to judge them, it opens their heart to change. That's how real change happens. Chosen One, this is why you need to stop making excuses. A lot of people put off their calling by telling themselves they're not ready. They wait for the best conditions, the best confidence, and the best clarity, but faith has never worked that way. Faith comes before certainty. You might never feel fully ready for what God wants you to do. That's normal. Everyone who has ever followed their calling has had times when they weren't sure what to do. It's easy to tell the difference between people who reach their goals and those who stay stuck. They choose to obey even when they don't know what's going to happen next. And right now, heaven is telling you to take that step. Chosen One, stepping forward in faith doesn't always feel good at first. The mind naturally looks for guarantees, or signs that everything in the future is already safe. But the way God makes things happen doesn't always show itself all at once. It happens slowly, one step at a time, and asks you to trust the One who can see what you can't see yet. Faith has always been called a shield, not a decoration, a slogan, or anything else. It is protection. The letter to the Ephesians says that faith can put out the enemy's fiery darts. That imagery is not poetic exaggeration, it is spiritual instruction, because the most important battles you will face this season will not start around you, they will start in your mind. Doubt will tell you that you can't do it. Fear will try to make you think that the risks are too big. You may remember how disappointed you were in past seasons. These voices are not new. For generations, they have followed people who have faith, but they only get stronger when they are not answered. You must tell them the truth. Anointed One, when you start to feel scared, remember who is with you. When things get uncertain, think about how many times you've already been helped through things that seemed impossible. When your mind starts to replay old failures, try to think about how you grew from them. Every season that was hard for you also made you stronger in some way. I remember a time when my faith was put to the test in a way I didn't expect. I had to go into new places because of opportunities that were coming up. I wanted to move forward, but another part of me was unsure if I was ready. That season, a simple realization changed everything for me. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. Courage means deciding to act even when fear is telling you not to. That knowledge set me free. You don't have to feel brave before you obey. Chosen One. Doing things makes faith stronger. Every step you take, even when you're not sure, shows that fear doesn't control where you're going. And with each step, doubt starts to fade away. People will try to convince you that having faith is foolish and that trusting God when things are uncertain is impossible. But history tells a different story. Every movement of change that lasted started with people who had faith in God before they could see the results. They kept going because they thought that following the rules would show them the way one step at a time, and now you are being given the same invitation. People will look for stability more than ever as the world becomes more uncertain. They will look for people whose voices stay calm when panic spreads. They will look for people who bring wisdom instead of confusion. And the strength you are gaining from your faith will help you become that steady presence. But you will have to be intentional about keeping your faith safe during this time. You need to protect what affects your mind and spirit. You don't have to pay attention to every voice. Not every place will help you see things more clearly. Some things that seem harmless may take away the focus and passion you need to do what you were meant to do. One of the most important things you can do is decide where to put your attention. Give your spirit what it needs by telling the truth. Be around people who push you to grow instead of being satisfied. Pray often, not just when you have problems, but every day to stay in touch with the one who leads you. These things are not rituals, they are what keeps your faith alive and strong. You may be going through real storms, but you are also getting stronger. Things may get rough in the world, but your foundation doesn't depend on what's going on right now. It is based on something that will never change. The more firmly you stand on that foundation, the better you will be able to see the purpose God has been preparing you to fulfill. As your faith grows and your vision gets clearer, something amazing starts to happen inside of you. The limits you used to think you had about yourself slowly start to go away, not because you become perfect all of a sudden, but because you start to understand where your real strength comes from. It doesn't just come from your own skills, it comes from being in line with the one who planned your purpose before you were born. Heaven knew the path your life would take long before you were born. God knew about the problems you would have to deal with. He knew you would win. Everything that has happened to you on your journey has been part of a much bigger plan, one that goes far beyond what you can see right now. You act differently after you realize that. You start to feel more confident, not the loud confidence that tries to impress others, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are being led. It is the kind of confidence that stays strong even when things change. You stay calm when other people are scared. You stop and look for wisdom when others jump to conclusions. You keep going even when others lose their way. This is what it means to have spiritual authority. In God's kingdom, having power doesn't mean controlling people or making them pay attention to you. It's about being responsible. It means having the guts to do the right thing even when it is hard. It's about picking honesty over taking the easy way out. It means standing up for the truth even if no one else is saying it. I remember a moment when I first began to understand this responsibility in a deeper way. Someone came up to me during a tough time in their life. They were overwhelmed, didn't know what to do with their lives, and were having trouble making choices that seemed impossible. I didn't have all the answers they wanted, but I listened. I prayed with them. I told them again that they weren't the only ones having trouble. They later told me that one moment changed how they saw their situation. It taught me something important. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is be faithful in small ways. People will look to you at times in your life, anointed one. Not because you say you're a leader, but because they feel safe around you. They will notice that you deal with problems in a different way. They will see the calmness you have even when things are up in the air, and that will lead to important conversations. Your calling isn't just about getting ahead in life, it's about becoming a person who helps others find hope when they feel like they can't go on. It is about keeping safe what is weak, helping what is discouraged, and leading what has been lost back to the truth. To be this kind of leader, You need to be humble. When pride enters the heart, clarity starts to go away, but when humility stays, strong wisdom keeps growing. Always remember that you didn't make the strength you have by yourself. It grew through grace and lessons learned in seasons that were sometimes hard but always had a purpose. Chosen one, the world around you is looking for realness more than ever. People are sick of promises that don't mean anything and quick fixes. They want something real, something that won't break under pressure, and a life based on faith gives you just that. This is why it's so important for you to be consistent. The way you act when no one is watching, how you treat people in everyday situations, and how you stay patient even when things seem to be going slowly are all small choices that build a reputation that is stronger than any words. Those choices will eventually show the people around you something important. Faith isn't just a concept, it's a real thing that affects how a person thinks, talks, and acts. And as the world keeps changing, that living example will become even stronger. But before you can see the full effects of your calling, there is one last thing you need to understand in your heart.